show by kids, about kids, and for kids.
Why? To show kids can make a difference and that kids are really smart.
USA Kids Today is a show that shows kids fighting the back from people they'd like to meet,
Like Marsha Barnhart, Rosie O'Donnell, Tom Cruise, Vanessa Tyler, myself, and Shannon Miller.
places they'd like to go,
Museum of Natural History, Aullwood Farm, Soapbox, Shirley, Wildlife Festival, Holiday Around the World, New York, and LA.
and things they'd like to do.
Learn magic, be a clown, ride in a parade, explore the moon, star in your own TV show.
USA Kids Today is kids. You don't have to be super smart, or funny, or pretty, or know how to juggle. You just have to be a kid and know how to have fun.
Like zipping off to a local festival,
Or building a soapbox derby car.
or peeking inside a nest full of little baby robins. Or meeting Peter the condor, the world's largest free-flying bird. Why? Because kids have really great ideas and kids can do a lot.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show of USA Kids Today.
October 11, 1997, students from 4 different schools, Northmore Elementary in Englewood, Helke Elementary in Vandalia, St. Peter's Catholic School in Huber Heights, and area Girl Scouts were invited to come to Aullwood and take part in an educational game called There's No Place Like Home. The game was designed to give participants a better understanding of how all living things are connected and the effect each has on the other. As humans, we need to be aware that the actions and changes we make to the environment can alter this delicate balance of nature. In the game, students visited 4 types of ecosystems and learned about 4 types of animals that inhabit them. They learned the difference between endangerment and extinction, and most importantly, the connection between systems. We divided the students into 4 teams. Each team was assigned an animal.
Today we are going to play a game called There's No Place Like Home. You are going to learn what it is and what it means to become extinct. You're going to be assigned to a certain group and you will be assigned a certain animal. You're going to learn about the animal, what it eats, where it lives, how it survives, what kind of shelter it needs. You're going to also be assigned a card along with your animal group. And you're going to have black dots on your cards that are mandatory requirements that you're going to have to fulfill. And you're also going to have some other information on your card to tell you about your animal, and you need to fulfill that information also, but that part's not mandatory. We're going to be leading you to 4 different ecosystems today. We're going to a marsh, a woodland, a prairie, and a river. Those are all different ecosystems. An ecosystem is a community of plants, animals, and non-living elements living and interacting together as a system. That means you have, just like if you look around here, you are sitting in a certain ecosystem right now. And it's different than the one right over there where those cars are. Completely different. That's another ecosystem.
When the students first arrived, they were assigned a color. After the game was explained, they were handed a matching color card that told them what animal they were. The card listed information about the animal and what its survival requirements are.
I am a river otter. I am about 5 feet long and weigh up to 25 pounds. My predators are dogs, wolves, bobcats, lynx, bears, and humans. I can live up to be 15 years old. My territory can be 50 to 75 miles in circumference, and I prefer to live around free-flowing water. My foods are carp, suckers, squawfish, gamefish, frogs, crayfish, turtles, snakes, birds, and eggs. I am a fast and good swimmer, but I'm vulnerable and clumsy on land. I am strong, agile, and intelligent. I am one of the few animals that know how to have fun in life. I play a lot, even as an adult. I'm active during all hours of the day. I have rich brown fur that has an oil coating to prevent my fur from being saturated by the water. I can be submerged underwater for as long as 4 minutes. I raise my young in a den. It may be an abandoned muskrat house or beaver lodge, a cavity in a bank or hollow tree, or beneath heavy vegetation.
I am a flying squirrel. I am 8 to 10 inches long and weigh 2 to 3 ounces. My predators are foxes, cats, owls, snakes, and humans. My foods are all nuts except for walnuts. And I also eat wild cherries and insects. I am strictly nocturnal. I do not actually fly. I am a glider. I can glide downward for as far as 100 feet. I am a tree climber, and I move awkwardly on the ground. I am very vulnerable when I'm not in a tree. I like to live in groups. I make my home in a tree cavity, a leaf nest, or an abandoned squirrel's or bird's nest.
I am a bullfrog. I am 3.5 to 8 inches long, and I am the largest frog in North America. My foods are woodlice, beetles, spiders, caterpillars, most insects, snails, and small mammals. My predators are foxes, otters, blue heron, white egrets, and most anything that eats fish. My skin requires me to spend most of my time in the water. I am a terrific swimmer and can hop on land. When I lay my eggs, I attach them to submerged vegetation in stagnant water and do not raise my young after they hatch. I sit motionless in the water for hours waiting for my food to come into my reach. I can only see food when it moves. I have a special skin that absorbs oxygen when it is wet, allowing it to be a second breathing system for me. I also have transparent eyelids that protect my eyes while I am swimming, allowing me to see underwater. I make my home out of a muddy hole in the bank along the water's edge.
I am a red fox. I am 3.5 feet long and weigh 8 to 10 pounds. My predators are lynx, wolves, bobcat, mountain lions, and humans. When I am young, owls and hawks may prey on me too. I can live to be 12 to 15 years old. I can be active during the day or at night. I prefer to scavenge my food rather than hunt for it. As an adult, I prefer to sleep out in the open to see any predators that might attack. My foods are game birds, small mammals, poultry, frogs, snakes, grasses, fruits, grain, and berries. I have a bright yellow, too deep rust colored coat and black legs. My fur is thick and keeps me warm. I raise my young in a den underground. I usually enlarge a woodchuck's burrow or will occasionally dig a new den if the soil is soft enough. My den will be on the edge of a field, on top of a small hill, or out in the middle of a large bare area. I live my entire life on land, and I'm a good runner. But I'm awkward in the water. I'm intelligent, and I choose to outwit my predators instead of outmuscle them.
Anybody know what a predator is? What distinguishes a predator from a prey besides it hunts other animals? I want you guys to do something for me. Yeah. Put your stuff on the ground. I want you to put your hands on the side of your face like this. Can you see anything on the side of your head?
No. Yeah.
You're going to take your hands off.
See my hand?
You are a predator. That means, yeah, I'm a predator. That means you have eyes in the front of your head. Somebody mentioned a cow. Where's the cow's eyes?
On the
It's on the side. They can see peripherally. That means they can see in the back, on the sides, They can't see directly behind them or directly in front of them. If you put your hand right there on the cow's face, they can't see it. They can only feel it. But they can see around in the back a lot better than we can. Think about a rabbit. How many of you are foxes? Raise your hand. What do foxes eat? Rabbits. Where's foxes' eyes? They're in the front because they are looking for the rabbit. Now think about the rabbit. The rabbit has eyes on the side, and he's looking behind him for the fox. And to the side of him for the fox. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Think about a deer. Think about the ears of a deer. Where's the eyes of a deer? They're on the side, right? Yeah. So what does that make them? Prey. That's right. They do not eat meat. But they have huge ears, don't they? Everybody go like this. Adults, you guys do this too. Put your hands inside your ears. And everybody be quiet. Then take them off. You notice any difference?
Yeah.
When you put your hands up to your ears like this, you expand your hearing capability. You can hear more. Like a deer. They got those ears that go around. They pick it all up.
Radar ears.
That's it. We're ready to go?
The students were eager to begin exploring. Our first ecosystem is going to be the marsh.
This is the element sheet again for a marsh. Okay. Read them off to me. What do they say? Yeah.
Stagnant water.
Stagnant water.
Many insects.
Many insects.
Submerged vegetation.
Submerged vegetation. What's submerged vegetation again? Yeah.
Underwater plant life.
Underwater plant life. That's right. Now look at your cards, and now take a look around. You guys have 15 minutes to look around and see if this is where you need to live.
Yeah, we
And then I'm going to blow a whistle, and then that means we're going to move on. Okay?
In their animal groups, the students investigated each ecosystem, comparing facts they were to collect and which system their animal needed to live in.
I'm with you.
I'm hoping to find some dragonfly larvae.
Hey, that is Mom.
Right there.
There's a big one. Who's what? A mayfly. Dragonfly.
Dragonfly larvae is pretty big.
The worm
That's a little mayfly. Mayflies get pretty big. Are we passing this side? Right here. In every ecosystem, there are indicator plants, which means that there are certain plants that grow in this ecosystem, a marsh, that does not and cannot grow anywhere else. There are things in this ecosystem like stagnant water, like submerged vegetation and insects that allow certain plants like this to grow. This is called horsetail. And if you look over there, you'll see a whole bunch of it growing. This is part of a marsh, and all, minus these trees, all back in there are indicator plants of a marsh. A marsh isn't actually 3 feet deep. It's short water. A marsh only has to be wet 30 days out of the year, consistently 30 days out of the year, for it to be designated as a marsh or a wetland. And it also has to have indicator plants. Okay, this is part of cattail. This is the leaves of a cattail. The stalk and the pole of a cattail hasn't grown yet. But this is definitely an indicator plant of wet ground for wetlands, marsh, bog, or swamp. If you look here along the stem, you can see the little wings. And this plant is called wing stem. And it's a indicator plant. Also, this is horsetail, the thing I was showing earlier.
It's right here.
And it's a silicon-based plant that I was also talking about earlier. And then down there's some jewelweed I wanted to show you.
This is jewelweed. It's a real succulent plant. It's got a lot of moisture and water inside it. And it's a succulent plant, meaning that it needs a lot of water to grow, and it's an indicator plant of marshlands.
Okay, now we found white egret, so now you can find where a bullfrog lives. That would be, he moved home out of a muddy hole in the lake along the water.
The milkweed opens up like this.
So we need to find like
When
the
the
marsh
marsh opens up, these things are attached to the seeds.
Fly away. I know, but we didn't see the home.
The next ecosystem we're going to is the woodlands. A woodland ecosystem is distinguishable by its abundance of trees. There are different kinds of woodlands. One type of woodland is a coniferous woodland. A coniferous or evergreen woodland has a population of trees such as Douglas firs, white pines, and blue spruces. The word evergreen means that it doesn't lose its leaves or needles every year. They stay green all year round. Coniferous trees shed their needles a little throughout the year. These needles are very acidic and permeate the soil with acid. This acid prevents most types of plants from growing. Many types of coniferous woodlands can survive in extreme cold temperatures in desolate areas.
Where are we?
In a woodland.
Woodlands, okay. A woodlands is land that is densely populated by trees, allowing only plants that require little sunlight to survive on the forest floor or the woodlands floor. Take a look around at the ground. How much grass do you see here?
None.
So does that mean grass requires a lot of sun?
No, because the leaves, the trees do not allow the sun to get in as much.
That's exactly right. And if we don't see grass around here, that means that grass requires a lot of sun. So you're not going to find grass here. We find stuff in the forest or the woodlands like mayaples and other smaller trees. So take a look around. Right now it's starting to get into fall, so some of the leaves are starting to cover the other plants. You guys have 15 minutes from now.
Another type of woodland is a deciduous woodland. A deciduous woodland has a population of trees such as maples, oaks, and ashes. The word deciduous means the tree sheds its leaves once a year and has no leaves in the winter. A deciduous woodland requires moist, rich soils to grow in and cannot survive in extreme hot or cold climate zones. Although these two types of woodlands can live in different climate zones, certain species of both coniferous and deciduous woodlands can also live together.
That's happening. Come on, step on down. Come on down. I want you to listen. There is a system that's happening within this system. Who's heard of decomposers? Decomposers are something that breaks another thing down after it's dead. So this tree is dead. That means there are carpenter ants. That means there's bacteria. That means there's fungus and algae that is all working on this log to break it down and turn it back into dirt. This tree that you're sitting on is going to be dirt in probably about 75 to 100 years from now. We're all going to be gone by the time this tree turns back to dirt. See the green on the end of that? That's moss. That's all helping to break the tree down back down to dirt. So we have decomposers, we have consumers, and we have producers. Decomposers, producers, and consumers. What are humans? Consumers. Do we break anything down? Consumers. Humans are consumers.
The type of woodland that we see today has indicator plants such as mayaples, great white trillium, and Solomon seal.
I would say a cool spider web, man. Right there. This is a black rat snake. Cool. And the snake sheds its skin. This snake probably sheds its skin about twice a month. And black rat snakes are pretty prevalent around here.
Some soil from the tree that's decomposing. It's really rich. Yeah. It'd be really good. And it's moist. I love it. Yeah. For worms, probably. And it was in the end of the tree. Yeah. That's the place where that the worms will live in, maybe. Yeah. It'd be really good for gardening.
We're really good for our science project.
Yeah. I need you to tell me where we are.
The prairie!
That's good. You guys did good on that. All right, as you can see, take a look at the edge. It's almost a square, isn't it? You can tell exactly where the woodland is compared to the prairie, correct?
Yeah.
A prairie is a treeless open field area allowing plants that require much sunlight to survive. And of course we have a lot of sunlight here because we're all very hot. All right, this is the element sheet for prairies. I need you to read it off.
Many small animals and birds, much sunlight.
Okay, now look at your cards. There's some clues on this sheet that tell you exactly where you have to be. So when you hear the whistle, meet back down at the bottom of the tower. Okay, go check it out.
We're all trying to catch our paper outside. It's called turkey foot because it's like at the top of it has like 3 different parts, so it looks like a turkey foot. We also saw this plant. I don't know what it was called, but it sent out like sandpaper.
Prairie duck.
And we also found that in prairie hat, and there are a lot of grain in the prairie.
This is called prairie dock. It's real rough on the underside, like sandpaper. And it's a tall plant. It generally gets between 5 and 8 feet. It's a indicator plant of a prairie. Prairies, as you can see, have a lot of grasses. These tall grasses that you see, this is called turkey foot. It's got 3 prongs on the end of it. It's like a turkey foot. And that's another indicator plant of a prairie. Prairies have generally dry soils and a lot of sunlight, and the grasses grow well here.
This even looks like sandpaper. sandpaper.
It looks like sandpaper, doesn't it? Well, it's really rough.
Does anything from the prairie make things and that we use for natural resources?
Sure.
What kind of stuff?
Like food? Like grain.
Oh, great.
Like, yeah.
Bread. And do you have like oatmeal, right?
Sure.
You can use oats for that.
Sure.
And rice? Turkey foot.
No, now rice is different. It's a different kind of grain. Rice requires a real wet soil. I mean, that like grows in water. And they harvest that from water.
And it also grows in mostly a different country.
Yeah, it's it grows. They do have rice farms in Texas
China.
too, and in China. China has a lot of them.
In Japan.
Japan,
mostly what they
the Orient, yeah. But you wouldn't find rice here, although it's a grain, but it's not the same kind of grain that grows on these grasses. There's a little round thing over where Lisa is standing. It's on a piece of goldenrod. I'm not going to pick it and hold it up because we want it to stay growing. This is called an insect gull. Yeah, a hole in the side of the stem. And then it laid its egg in the stem. And then you know when you get bit by a mosquito, how your skin reacts in a bump?
Yeah.
Well, that's how this plant reacted. The plant reacted like a bump, only it grew around the egg. It grew on the egg, and that created a gull. Now, when this insect hatches, it will eat the inside of the gull, which is plant material, for its first food. And then it will dig a hole out, and then it will go about its business. But that's how the insect acts as a parasite onto the plant. So anytime you see a big ball like this, or sometimes you'll see leaves clumped up together, a lot of maples are like that, that's what's happening. It's insect activity. Any questions? No, she's gonna jump.
On our way to the river, one of the kids spotted a camouflage praying mantis. This beautiful specimen was about 6 inches long and scurried out of our view before we could get a good shot of her. The praying mantis is a definite indicator of a prairie because they are excellent hunters in tall grasses.
What's different between here and the marshland? We know there's no trees.
It's dry.
It's dry. What?
The marshlands are wet.
Uh-huh.
And it's arid.
Uh-huh. Big open field, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's more grain.
Okay, there's quite a few clues that we just gave. There's a lot of grains, that's right.
And a lot of small animals.
A lot of small mammals. Okay, we're going to our final ecosystem. So we're going to the river.
The distinctive feature of a river ecosystem from other bodies of water is its large source of constantly moving water. Indicator plants of a river ecosystem are the sycamore tree, the eastern cottonwood tree, and the water willow plant. Some animals you might see at the river are the beaver, great blue heron, and the kingfisher.
Okay, guys, where are we? All right. The river, now look at your cards as I read this. This has a lot of clues in it. The river is a body of water that is larger than a creek or a stream. It constantly flows southward towards the ocean. It allows plants requiring moderate to much sunlight and wet soil to survive. Okay, read this off for me. You guys pay attention. What does it say? Free flowing water, many fish and crayfish, heavy vegetation on banks.
Some fish require large amounts of oxygen that only the river can provide. Fish such as the green side darter, the rainbow darter, hogsuckers, or the creek chub all live in the riffles of the river where the source of oxygen is abundant. And as always, the students were happy to share their discoveries with the camera.
A dog is a predator to a river otter.
At this point, the teams knew which ecosystem their animal needed to live in. So let's review the facts we started out with. What is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is a community of plants, animals, and non-living elements living and interacting together as a complete system. Remember our 4 animals? The bullfrog, flying squirrel, red fox, and river otter? They all had mandatory requirements necessary for their survival. You remember the definition of a marsh? A marsh, or wetland, is an ecosystem consistently wet at least 30 days per year where specific indicator plants, such as horsetail, cattail, duckweed, and jewelweed grow. And a woodland is a land that is densely populated with trees, allowing only plants that require little sunlight to survive. What about a prairie? A prairie is a treeless open field area, allowing plants that require much sunlight to survive. What defines the river? A river is a body of water larger than a creek or a stream that constantly flows southward towards the ocean. There was a chart of elements for each ecosystem that we investigated. Remember the chart of elements for the marsh? Stagnant water, many insects, and submerged vegetation. Yes, the marsh is where the bullfrog lives. Remember the elements of a woodland? Trees, nuts and berries, moist but not wet soil. Did you guess who lived here? Yep, Rocky the flying squirrel lives here. Remember the elements of a prairie? Open field of many grasses and other plants, many small mammals and grains, and much sunlight. If you guessed that our friend Scarlet the Fox likes to live in the prairie, then you guessed right again. How about the river? Remember the elements there? Free-flowing water, many fishes and crayfish, and heavy vegetation on the banks. I suppose everybody guessed where the river otter lived. In the river. Where else?
I just want to let you guys know that you guys are probably the best class I have ever had. You guys and that is including the parents. Okay, this is a challenging part of the game. You guys have all worked really hard, and you're sitting in your groups. Now you have one last task. Talk amongst your groups. You have 5 minutes. Talk amongst your groups what ecosystem you guys all want to be in. Each group should have only one ecosystem, and you got to make sure you're in the right one. Make sure you have covered all your points. Go. Bullfrog, what ecosystem are you in?
Marsh.
Why? What's the one biggest clue that told you you were in a marsh?
It said they attach their eggs to submerged vegetation in stagnant water.
Ding, 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 ding. They win the prize. That is the clue. The marsh has just been bulldozed over, and it is now turned into a parking lot. Now, the new elements of the parking lot are asphalt and concrete. Does that match any of your requirements on your cards?
No.
Okay, now let's look at the requirement cards of the other ecosystems. Maybe you can go there. The marsh, that's gone. All right, the prairie. Does this match any of your requirements? All right, let's try the river. Does the river have any of your, or all of your requirements?
No.
No, because you're looking for what? Stagnant water. I'm sorry to tell you guys, but you are now out of the game. You are extinct.
What? It's not fair. It's not fair.
Houses. Raise your hand. Okay, we got a prize for you. The prairie was taken out. There is a mall now. The mall connects with the parking lot. Now, let's see, since the prairie is completely gone, let's see if you can get your requirements. We're talking about the black dots on your cards. Let's see if you requirements in another place. How about the river? Well, first of all, what was the one clue, the big clue, that let you know that you were supposed to be in the prairie? What was it? Yeah, Matt.
We ate small animals and grain.
And grain. Grain's one. Okay, what else? There's one other major clue that lets you know you should be in the prairie. You prefer to sleep out in the open. Yeah, that's a big clue. But that's not a black dot, is it? So that wasn't one of your mandatory requirements. Do you fit in the river? Can you possibly go there now that the prairie's gone? Can you go to the marsh? Look up here at the chart. Read them. Yeah, it's a parking lot, it's not asphalt. Why don't you just point out my mistakes, okay? Okay, now look at your black dots. Can you go in the woodlands?
Yeah.
So, the bullfrogs are extinct, but the fox can go to the woods. The fox can go to the woods because it has all the food that it needs, and it can find a shelter, and it can also raise its young. Okay, do you guys understand the connection here? Who's left? Squirrels and the river otters. Oh, I forgot about your surprise. See, when they make a mall and then they make a parking lot with it, and then you have the parking lot that's connecting to the mall, they drain the watershed into the river so the river can carry the excess rain away so the parking lot doesn't flood. What happens when it rains, it washes all of the oil and any of the other chemicals of the car leaks into the river. Then you guys were swimming in the river when they had a big rain, and now all of the motor oil is on your fur. Winter is... That's right. The oil covered your coats, and you can no longer keep yourself dry in the winter, and therefore you're gonna die. You are now out of the game.
Oh, that's just
You're cheating. I am a meanie. Am I not a meanie? Okay, why are the flying squirrels left? I don't have any more good surprises for anybody. Why?
because we live in the woodlands and nothing happened to them yet.
That's right. That's exactly right. Who else is left? Foxes. Why are you here?
Because we could move from the prairie to the forest.
Exactly. You are the kind of animal that can adapt to another ecosystem, so you are very lucky. Who died? Who died? That's the same thing. The same thing. The bullfrog died. She's still upset with me. The bullfrog died and the river otter died, but... Hold on. Let me finish. But your guys' ecosystem was destroyed and theirs was not. But you have to understand the connection because everything is connected. We didn't have to take out their ecosystem to affect them. They died anyway because your ecosystem and their ecosystem were taken out and built into something different. Therefore, having a reaction to them, they died as a result of that, and they were lucky enough to move. This happens every day. You have to understand that we played a game today. And in this game, we are assuming there's only one marsh, there's only one woodlands, one river, and one prairie in the entire world. This game assumes that. But in the real world, there are, well, not anymore, they're not, there used to be, but there are more than one system left. So in the real world, the frogs could have went over to another pond if it was close enough, and they might have lived. And the river otters, well, you guys would have died because you have oil. But the fox could have went to another prairie. But that's the difference between endangerment and extinction. You guys were ceasing to exist. You became extinct. When there's opportunity and room for you guys to hop to another pond, before it's bulldozed over, then you are endangered. Do you guys understand the difference?
Yes.
Not all animals whose homes have been destroyed have become extinct. There have been quite a few success stories where wild animals have been reintroduced back into the wild by humans. This means that humans have taken a wild animal species that is endangered and released it into another area where it can survive. Some animals have adapted to their changing environment, and some have been protected by the government to allow them to repopulate. The bald eagle is one of our success stories. The eagle breeds and raises its young in the wetlands habitat. Since the number of wetlands has significantly decreased, so has the number of eagles. Researchers have also found that the eagle was being poisoned by farming chemicals such as DDT and the lead shot from bullets that it had received from the prey that it ate. When the farmers sprayed their crops to get rid of the weeds and insects, the rabbits ate these poison plants. Then the eagle would eat the rabbit who ate these poison plants. This poison would then be transferred into the eagle, causing it to lay eggs with shells that were too soft to survive. In 1975, the number of breeding pairs of eagles were decreased down to 4. Since researchers have discovered this process of food chain poisoning, they have taken steps to educate and control the situation. They have reintroduced baby eagles, or eaglets, into the wild nests to be raised by foster eagle parents. They also built artificial nests for the eagles. In 1994, there were 26 active nests recorded in different parts of northern Ohio. Another success story is one about the white-tailed deer. In the early 1900s, there were no white-tailed deer left in Ohio. They had lost their habitats or homes, and they were hunted until there weren't any left. When the government discovered that they were all gone, they decided to stop letting people hunt them. Then deer started to come into Ohio from Michigan and Pennsylvania. Now, the white-tailed deer in Ohio are very abundant. There are so many that they have become overpopulated in some areas. So there can be happy endings to the problems between wildlife and the relationship with humans. We have just got to remember that every species is connected in some way, and the things we do may cause problems for something else. The game that we played today only allowed one of each kind of ecosystem to exist, where in real life many of each kind of ecosystem exists, making it possible for animals to fulfill their requirements in another area. The thing that you need to understand is when we take away too many of one type of ecosystem, the animals have no other place they can live and they become endangered and then extinct. We'd like to give special thanks to the participants and facilities that made this educational video possible. We'd like to thank Aullwood Audubon Center and Farm, the Dayton Museum of Discovery, formerly known as the Dayton Museum of Natural History, Pelkey Elementary School, Northmore Elementary School, St. Peter Catholic School, Girl Scout Troop 384, and all participating parents. We'd also like to thank the Ohio Division of Wildlife, the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, and Five Rivers Metro Parks for their information and use of the facilities. We hope you enjoyed There's No Place Like Home, and remember, for every action there is a reaction, and we are all a fiber in this web of life.